Hi. So this presentation is a hybrid of what I used last year in teaching. Like we had a teach-in where actual middle school students were here. And then I've added more things because obviously you're not middle school students. So this is a mix so that it's keeping with the same structure, but I've added to it. So what I like to do with the students was to start with stereotypes because it's unspoken. It's kind of shameful. You think you don't ever have stereotypes, but everybody does in some way. So I use this as an icebreaker. So I said stereotypes. It's all sand and only camels. Again, lots of sand. And that's what the women, like that's how they dress. That's how they're treated. And then I did a reality part. This is actually a snapshot of Tehran. This is a good time of day when there's no traffic. Normally there's like 5 lanes in each direction. That's another view of Tehran. This is a woman walking in one of the malls in northern Tehran. And this is a good clip I like to show. It's YouTube. It's when The Daily Show went to Iran. If we have time at the end, I can go back and play all these YouTube clips for you. But yeah, sorry. Okay. This is funny because the 2 producers actually went to Iran and they lived with an Iranian family, and they kind of counteracted a lot of the stereotypes they even had, being like internationally minded and fairly liberal. So I liked how they approached going to Iran for the first time in this clip.
We're actually going to watch that clip
Later? Okay.
Unless you want to show it now.
I can show it now.
I just don't know where
Oh my goodness. I thought it was a link. Hold on. We'll do it at the end, yeah. Sounds good. Okay, so in this presentation, I'm going to talk about post-revolution cinema, the music industry in Iran, and what a section that the kids really liked was sex, revolution, and politics in Iran, or dating, sex, and religion in Iran, sorry. So post-revolution cinema, the revolution actually helped restore a female presence in Iranian cinema. Prior to the revolution, like a lot of cinema women had been sexualized, and so they were kind of there as a prop, or they were, like you'll even see it in American movies, like there was always a scantily clad woman being the belly dancer, or like the Playboy bunny. And they had the same view in Iran also, because a lot of the ideas and filming that they produced in Iran was kind of exported from the West. It had a lot of Western influences. After having fought a revolution with their brothers, fathers, and sons, the women began to gain strength in the household because a lot of men and young boys died in the Iran-Iraq War and the revolution. So a lot of women were left to kind of manage the household. So women started producing and directing their own films. And once they started doing that, they kind of depicted modern life for Iranian women. They have to be covered, and they can't, like, there can't be very highly sexualized scenes in movies between men and women. But they delve a lot deeper, I feel, because they can't overtly like make out with their boyfriend, or they can't say they have a boyfriend. So there's a duality within that. The film industry in Iran is thriving. It makes over 130 of its own productions every year, and they screen at international film festivals. These are some of the most recent and like more famous Iranian movies. So Children of Heaven was nominated with It's a Beautiful Life, or that Italian movie. The same year, they were both nominated for Academy Awards. Offsides was funny because it shows women trying to get into a football game or a soccer game in Iran, because women can't attend sporting events. Ali Santuri kind of discusses substance abuse in Iran. Oh, I'm pointing at the screen. substance abuse in Iran. M Like Mother is about, I think it's a single mother raising a child in Iran. And that movie is very melodramatic and very sad. A lot of Iranian movies tend to be sad, but they also have hysterically funny Iranian movies. It's its own genre and actual movie industry. So some rules they have in the cinema: contact between a man and a woman is totally forbidden. If men and women do touch, it's through cloth or symbolism. Now that's even opened up. Like, I went to Iran. I came back in mid-July, and we saw a movie there, and like the wife was consoling her husband and kind of rubbing his arm. And it's subtle, but when we went 9 years ago, there weren't movies like that. They were always like sitting across from a table discussing.
And even in sitcoms, the same thing. There were like women and men actually touching each other, which we were surprised about.
Women cannot be treated as commodities, considered sexual objects, or arouse any sexual desire. Women are not supposed to sing solo or dance on the screen or stage. About Iran's film festival, the Fajr Film Festival was established in 1982 by the Ministry of Culture. Like I said, a lot more Iranian films are actually gaining international recognition. This year, the movie Nader and Simin, A Separation, is creating a lot of buzz in Iran because it went to the Berlin Film Festival, and along with other film festivals, but that's the most notable so far. And it won Best Film, which is their Golden Bear, and both Best Actress and Best Actor in a film, which has never been done by one movie before. It swept like the first top 3 prizes. So this is a picture. The bottom is like where the film festival is held, and those are some posters because it's international. So they have movies from Korea and Japan and different Emirate states. They're shown there. Music. So pop and hip hop are the most popular among youth in Iran. Although traditional music is making a comeback, and a lot of families like their children to learn traditional instruments. The music industry is censored, and so if you want to make a CD or put out music, you have to, if you want to mass produce it and actually sell it in stores, you have to go through their ministry, where they will listen to the songs, read the poems, and see if it's appropriate for sale or sponsorship by the state. Most songs revolve around love. They're very romantic songs. They're like, oh, you left, please come back, my heart is broken, I'm nothing without you. Like, every song you hear in Iran is about love or loving someone or wanting to love someone or loving dancing. It's very fun. Because the music industry is so censored, a lot of younger musicians have gone underground. So you'll see a lot of YouTube, MySpace, and Facebook sites with Iranian girls who rap, because women can't rap or be in a group by themselves, solo, on stage or perform. So they'll rap and they'll post it on YouTube, or they'll have an all-girl group and then have a separate website for themselves. That is technically illegal, but no one really pursues it or finds them to rat them out. And a lot of the underground singers and performers, they talk about societal and political tension and topics. So I'll play a clip.
Sorry, and just about the political things have really been on a crackdown right now, especially if they're about the Green Revolution. So a lot of bands and groups, especially there was this one group called Mastan, and it was a very famous traditional group based out of Tehran, and they all played, dulcimers and hand drum, nothing poppy, nothing westernized at all, which usually is loved by the government. But they started singing about the Green Revolution, and now they're based out of LA. So political pressure does play a big role.
So these are some of Iran's big pop groups. I cannot remember his name. I think his name is, I can't remember. Anyway, that's Benjamin. He was a couple years ago the most famous Iranian pop singer. And that top is the Aryan Band. And this is also another really famous pop group. And it was special because I think it was the first one in a while that had women performing on stage and playing music and singing background vocals. They all they sell out venues in Iran. They're really big. Next slide. So a lot of hip hop and rap and music, youth music, has been influenced by the West, but it's kind of an international thing that has come out. Like, you can go anywhere in the world and you'll see influences of like African beats and American beats and certain synths and drum machines. And so it's the same in Iran. The young people in Iran have access to all this technology, and they use it to make their own music and produce their own music. And a couple more guidelines about performing in Iran. Women are not allowed to perform solo in front of a mixed audience and can only perform solo with bands or orchestras composed of only women and only for women. So that in itself is kind of a form. I'm sure it might have arose to keep women from performing, but it kind of had the counter effect, because women will go and pursue like forming an all-female band and then sell out a stadium full of like women performers, and then like they'll have female engineers, sound techs, lighting people. So it's all like a woman-made production, which I thought was really cool. And many musicians do move to the United States to perform if they feel particularly stifled, or they want to come to the U.S. I don't know if you've heard the term Tehrangeles, but Los Angeles is like a big hub for Persian people. I think 750,000 Iranians live in Los Angeles, and in the United States there's only 1.5 million, so like half of them live in Los Angeles. So these are my YouTube links. I'm going to come back to it at the end, so we can just play everything at once, if that's okay. Does that work? Okay. These are some of the musicians that moved to the United States. So like Andy, he's really big, but he came here like 30 years ago. And he established his career mainly in the United States. Like Iranian Americans listen a lot to his music. Sepide is another singer. I mean, like, she could not have that poster in Iran. Kiosk is a band that the lead singer, Arash Sobhani, he goes back and forth between Iran and the United States, but he performs either in Europe or the US. He doesn't perform in Iran. But like, that was another underground band. And
that's our cousin, just a little bit.
Next. Okay, so dating, sex, alcohol, and religion. Those are the two I left out, sex and alcohol. So I don't know if you guys know, but Iran is a dry country, so no alcohol can be sold or drank publicly. Premarital relations are frowned upon, but my generation is changing things. Like when we got back, I asked my cousin all these questions, and I was like, okay, so I know virginity and all this stuff is really big. I was like, what do kids actually do? And he's like, whatever you do in the United States happens here in Iran. It's just not, people can't flaunt it. So if someone is having premarital relations, I mean, it does occur, and a lot of couples actually do that and then end up getting married. It's just preference. Like, you'll find a lot of conservative families here that absolutely abstain, and then you'll find some that take the opposite approach, and it's the same in Iran. You'll have people who very staunchly, like the kids themselves, want to wait until marriage, and others that think it's their right, and so they kind of pursue their own lifestyle. Young Iranians are very smart and have ways of getting around everything, loopholes, you name it. Like, if there's a firewall put in place against YouTube or Facebook, they've cracked the code. They can still go access Facebook or YouTube. If they want to go on a date, they'll like arrange it and meet in a certain place at a park or university. They'll say like, it's my cousin, visiting from the United States, or they'll make things up. They're really quick on their feet, and they know all the laws and rules, so they know how to go around them and avoid them.
And coffee shops are really popular right now. And there's like, we saw a lot of coffee shops, and everywhere you go, there's just like one boy, one girl at a table. It's a date, but they're just friends.
Right. Let's see. There are multiple religions in Iran, although most of the population is Shia Muslim. They do have Christians, Jews, Catholics, Baha'is. lots of different religious groups in Iran. And, go back real quick. And most of the cultural traditions, like our Persian New Year's or our Fire Wednesday, where we jump over fire, and Persian New Year's, like we set a table with 7 different symbols of a good year in fertility. Those all stem from Zoroastrian practices, which was the first dualist religion. So like this is an example. You'll see, like they were in school. That's why they're wearing the black scarves. I'm sure if they were like outside of school, they would not be as conservative in their dress. But you can still see like dyeing your hair blonde is also a big trend in Iran. Like everyone dyes their hair. So you can see her hair is dyed and sticking out. And they're just kind of sitting there talking to their classmates or boyfriends or whoever it is, kind of flirting. It happens there. Politics, did somebody already cover politics with you guys?
He just
You did? Okay. So we'll skip through that. Green. Oh, okay. Well, I can talk a little bit about that. The biggest thing, as you all know, was the Green movement that happened in 2009 after the Iranian elections. Going back and speaking to people, like, I feel the people who live in America or used to live in Iran we're trying to live vicariously through the youth of Iran. I don't think the youth necessarily wanted a full-fledged revolution. I don't think they wanted people to die. It kind of spiraled out of control. They didn't want Ahmadinejad. A lot of them didn't want them. But a good amount of the population also voted for him because he was a populist. He helped the poor. And when you're very poor, like anybody who comes and helps you, you automatically see the good in them and see their potential. The youth, the ones that went to protest, a lot of them were college educated. They at least graduated high school. They were working class, upper middle class. They knew what rights they deserved, so they were willing to go protest for it. But I don't think, talking to my cousins, I don't think they were ready to completely get rid of the theocracy in Iran. They wanted their their civil liberties? Yeah, and civil liberties returned, but I think here we projected onto them what we wanted. So like my parents' generation, they fought through the revolution and they saw this as an opportunity to get what they didn't get in the revolution, as opposed to the people who actually were living in Iran. They weren't ready for something so drastic.
And when I was talking to my cousins and their friends, they said that a lot of this was angry kids, and you'll just not that they were also taking part of it. But there's just a lot of anger within the youth, just because they do feel a little oppressed. And so a lot of them, he said, they acted without thinking. They don't really know what their consequences are, which is the reason why the Green Revolution didn't seem to, in a lot of eyes, have any direct goal in mind or like quick goal in mind. And it's because the youth didn't know what they wanted either. And still, when you ask them, you don't really get an answer. They just know what they don't want. They don't necessarily know what to propose for the future. And so that's the big thing. And you'll also notice a huge divide between the generation right before this one and the kids, the youth now. The youth now, a lot of them in the cities, they didn't like Ahmadinejad. And my cousins always badmouth him. But my aunt, his mom, voted for him. And so a lot of the older generation, and not even that old, just like 40s, they are comfortable with him and they're fine with him because they've already been through the revolution when they were kids and they don't want it again. And so they're comfortable with having things the way they are. And so some people say if he hadn't said the election outcomes too early, there's a chance he would have won, because if you leave any of the city, you will just find conservative people who did vote for him. And if you stay in the city, you will find a lot more progressive people who wanted Musavi over Ahmadinejad. So I think it's a lot like any election here if you have conservatives versus liberals. If you go closer to inner cities, you'll get that, and if you leave into the more of the countryside, you'll get just as many conservatives.
But it also put a spotlight on the divides within the structure in Iran. Like, you think it's like one solid theocracy, but it's not. Like, people within the theocracy are more liberal than others. There are people who would like to remove the scarf, some that don't. So even within their own system, like it's showing cracks. And it's just, I think it's just a matter of time until either another movement starts or stuff starts to change, because this demonstrated how restless the youth are, and it's showing problems with the system and how people don't like the system. So it's just a matter of time.
And the biggest thing I got from it, we were just there 3 weeks ago, was it? Oh, like 3 weeks ago. And so we were there for a month. The biggest thing I got was that, from the youth at least, is that there, and actually even adults, there is no one way of looking at it. There's no group that's looking at this the same way. Every single youth, even within my cousins, they were arguing to each other too about what they
It's
wanted.
one family. It's like three brothers and a sister. And even between them, they had different political views and different opinions and different religious views. Like I had one cousin, they kind of demonstrated the whole spectrum. One cousin was totally liberal, like thinks premarital sex is okay, doesn't want Ahmadinejad, wants completely free democratic Iran. I have another cousin, or I have two in the middle, that like one's more liberal and one is more conservative, and then a conservative cousin who's like, no, girls should stay covered, they should practice abstinence, they like Ahmadinejad is good, he's helping the population, he's helping the poor people, this is what Iran needs. So they all have different views on what they think is right. And I just kind of got more confused by going. I honestly don't know, because I realize that I can't say. I don't live there. I think the only people who have the right to make the decisions are the people who actually live in that country. So any outside support, I realize now, might be counterproductive, because it just makes them feel like they're being pushed in a direction that they don't want to go, as opposed to letting them figure it out themselves.
And mainly also that there aren't two sides to this. There are so many different sides to this. It's not like the 1979 revolution. There are not clear-cut, you're on this time, you're on this team. It's not like that at all. And I think that also reflects on the government and how people are viewing the government. They don't know, there's not conservatives and liberals. There's so many different sides. And then on top of that, there's this actual rapper, and we'll play it later. She made this great rap, and this is the perfect way to look at it, a metaphor. It's like a family arguing, and you don't want anybody else from outside of your family to come and tell you what to do, because they don't know. All they know is that they want to keep it within the family. And that's what I got from the youth. The politics, they want to keep it within Iran. They don't want other countries coming and forcing anything on them. Different people might want help, but the point is that it is a family struggle. That's why it just seems like bickering almost. And so I thought that was a really great metaphor, because that's exactly the feeling I got when I was there.
And even in 79, the revolution, that created like a vacuum. It was a power struggle. There were multiple groups that wanted the Shah. Like they united to overthrow the Shah, but afterwards there were many rival groups. And the one that won out and had like the best set plan from, 5-10 years prior was the Islamic branch of the revolution. And so that's what ended up kind of winning.
Sorry, we could go on for a really long time.
Yeah. So we talked about this. Yeah. Okay. Questions? Should we pull up YouTube?
Oh.
You guys have any questions? Yes.
I was watching a movie from an Iranian director called A Taste of Cherry.
Oh, yeah.
And in the beginning scene, there was a guy like cruising around in a car, and my partner and I were debating about whether or not the director was intending there to be like tension, like if he was cruising to like try to pick up like male prostitutes or something like that, or if that was just sort of our, what we thought an American director might do,
right.
Or if like an Iranian audience would have that, would see a tension like that.
I think that movie was made, like 10 years ago, or 10 plus years ago. Is it director Abbas Kiarostami?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so he likes to do scenes in cars. Like, that's his thing. So, like, it's either, like, if a serious conversation is going on between a husband and wife, it's always, like, them in a car. Or, like, wife and daughter, or, it's always them in a car. So I think the car symbolizes, like, either an internal struggle or a conversation. I don't necessarily think the audience in Iran would have picked up on any other subtext. Like, I don't think it was... I don't remember that film very much, but I don't think at the time it was as forefront in people's minds.
He was cruising around, like, looking for people to, like, sort of, like, bury him after he, like, killed himself. And, like, some people thought there was supposed to be, like, a tension, like, you imagine, like, he's cruising around looking for, like, a male prostitute, but that probably
I
wasn't
don't
too
think that was the intent at the time. Yeah.
Or if it was, we didn't catch that.
Or most of the
Most of the population didn't.
Because my mom loves that movie.
And she would have definitely.
She would not that that would make her not like it, but like she's very open, so she would have told us. Like, did you see that? That was him like hinting at sexual unrest in Iran. Like I don't think that's where it was going with that.
So since we're kind of on the sexual orientation portion,
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
right.
what is the situation with
The gays now exist.
LGBTQ people?
Right.
Essentially, it's that they can't exist. Basically, they're there for sure. You can't argue that, but they are really in fear. And we know multiple that our friends took in. They flee. They leave Iran because they feel really scared. And I did see, which this was really surprising to me, and just the amount of guts these guys have. But we were in Mashhad, which is the most religious city because it has the burial
Tomb of
site, the
Imam
tomb
Rosa.
of one of our imams. I was walking around in sandals and I was touched with the dust feather, which is like the
feather
thing that
duster.
feather duster, where they're like, "Excuse me, lady, please do something."
You need
I
to
had
cover
my
your
sister's
feet,
socks.
yeah.
Anyways, it was really.
It's a long story.
It was and so I was surprised and walking right next to this, not even in the city, but next to the tomb, the building that has the tomb, not the actual tomb. There were two gay guys holding hands, walking right into it to go pray.
So it's
So I thought that they were, because I knew multiple that came here, and I thought they were really afraid, and heard a lot of stories of people fleeing. But I saw at least 4 instances in the public where guys were holding hands.
And like Iranian culture is a very open culture. Like men kiss each other on the cheek as
Yeah.
a greeting. Women kiss each other. Men and women kiss each other on the cheek. It wasn't that. Like you could tell that they were partners. And there are gays in Iran, and that whole thing stems from Iran provides free surgeries for gender transition surgeries, and like the hormone replacement, everything that goes with that. So Ahmadinejad said, with that in place, gays technically don't exist or should not exist because
Because everyone's trans.
Yeah,
he
you
thinks,
should-
Yes, he
if
essentially
you-
thinks
if you're-
that gays are just transgender, and so
If-
once they change, he has no problem,
Yeah, if you're a man that likes a man, one of you needs to become a woman.
and then it's okay. And isn't that funny? It's free.
It's
the
free.
thing about
It's a-
Iran is that it's always a paradox. Okay, things don't make sense, but at the same time they make sense. You don't it's really confusing.
It's so another thing kind of tied into that was that I would see girls in full chador, like black chadors, holding it, but then you would see that like they have so much makeup on, and like there's little bits of really stylized hair like sticking out, and that in itself was really confusing to me because they're super religious, but like, and the whole point of religion and wearing the chador is to be modest and conservative, and they were like, makeup to the nines. It was ridiculous, like bright blue and like eyeliner and lipstick, and it was like 9 a.m. I didn't understand that, but it made sense to
We were the most
them.
conservative people walking down the street.
Yeah.
I was wearing this makeup, and they could tell from a mile away that I was American.
Yeah.
I met multiple people that they're like, my cousin would be like, "Oh, this is just my cousin from America," and they're like, "Oh, we know," because they could tell just by how we were dressed.
Because we
She'd
were
be
wearing Birkenstock
this,
sandals.
And this is extremely loose. I was wearing my Birkenstocks. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was also going to show. Any other questions? Yes.
I'm just curious to how much of what's been going on in Iran do you think has been influenced by overseas Iranians? Because of the large number, they are everywhere.
I don't think very much of it has been influenced by overseas Americans because the ones that are overseas don't ever go back. So we can talk and protest and project as much as we want to, but no one's actually there in Iran to do anything or make anything happen. So I think as of right now, everyone who's outside of Iran talking they're just talking. They're not actually getting anything done or moving towards certain goals. Like Human Rights Watch and getting prisoners out of political jails and stuff, that puts pressure on the people of Iran and the people in jail or the prosecutors and stuff to get them freed or change something about how that works, but it's not actually fueling like another revolution or a movement in a certain direction. Because they have internet and the youth are so good at getting around firewalls, they can see, like other countries, they see how America operates, they know the politics of America way better than I know, and I live here. they're aware of everything, and they know what they like about each community and society, but the only way that anything's going to change is if the people of Iran actually want it to change.
And also, it's more one-sided. I find that a lot of Iranian Americans here are looking them up, but in Iran, they weren't necessarily looking at anything that was happening overseas in terms of the Great Revolution stuff, unless it came up on whatever sites they were actually looking at. Like, we held many rallies here, and it wasn't just Portland, it was many, and I asked my cousins if they heard about them. They said no. But it's because they probably were more preoccupied with what was going
They
on.
kind of have their own. I want to show you, so this is what I could wear going out in Iran. You can wear a belt. This is pretty loose, and this is on the conservative side, as far as things go. The pants, I would probably just wear them at night because they kind of reach to my ankle, but I could wear heels, like women were wearing heels higher than this, jeans much tighter than mine. These, they call them manteaus. Manteaus were like tight. I did not know how they wore it because it was 105 degrees, and they were wearing these like really tight cotton jackets. I did not understand because I wore a belt one day. I was like, that's a bad idea because I just had like sweat kind of right around my tummy. So it was very hot and difficult. And like scarves, this is a conservative way of wearing a scarf. Like when we would go to restaurants and eat dinner, I could leave it open like this, and girls would wear like this, and their hair would be open to here. It'd be like this for back. Yeah, I'm not even exaggerating.
And it never fell off.
It never fell off.
Multiple times, and I'm like, how do you do it? Because it's just hanging literally in midair like this.
I think they like taped it or super glued or something.
I don't know. They have it's an art when it comes to putting on your reset.
They would. Let me show you.
And the main thing is that also Kristine, she did get stopped. She had rolled up. She was wearing that manteau. She had rolled up her sleeves like this, and she got stopped by a woman. They usually are in vans, and then a woman standing on the street, and then they have a van right behind them. And if you're really pushing it, they'll take you to the van and have like an hour talk. Is what my cousin would tell you. And she said she only once ever saw someone being taken away. That's probably if you took off your hijab. But you get talking, you go back out, and they go along their way. And so my sister was walking like this.
I didn't have a belt. I had like long jeans, and I was walking with my mom.
Nike
no makeup, Nike tennis shoes, and the lady just kind of stopped. And my friends had warned me. They're like, if someone calls you to stop, keep walking. So I was like walking. I'm like, I'm not stopping. But my mom stopped, and she was like, Bahareh, Bahareh, you have to come back. So I came back, and the lady's like, Khoha, which means sister, like, please roll down your sleeves. So I was like, roll down, and then I just like kept walking, and I rolled it back up again, like 2 feet in front of the lady.
Because they were telling us that you don't have to stop for them, because really they don't really have any power. It's more of an intimidation factor. But they said you really don't have to stop for them. But at the same moment she's walking by, I don't know if you saw the other photos with the women who had their hair out, makeup. We're walking, 2 of them were walking right by at the exact same time, and they stopped her because her thing, she had rolled up her sleeves where they were wearing tights. And my mom says it's because the lady probably thought they were too far gone to save her. That's probably why. She was potential to get that from the break.
Well, okay, so hair, they would wear a scarf and their hair would stick out like more than this. Their hair would be down to here and be okay.
And also our family was much more protective of us. If we did that, they would not let us go out because they were afraid that we would get stopped. Other girls, they didn't care what they did, and they saw everything, but they made sure that when we went out, we were the most conservative people around because they didn't want any reason for them to stop us, and we're American citizens.
What is the punishment if they do take you away?
They call your parents. Well, so that's why like there isn't much incentive for youth to change. So like if you're caught with your boyfriend, they take you to like a holding center, and they call your parents. And the parents already know that like their daughter has a girlfriend, or their daughter has a boyfriend, or vice versa. Or they already know what their daughter looks like, or son looks like when they leave the house in the morning. So they're not surprised. They'll just call and come pick them up or say, no, it's okay, they're fine. So there's no incentive for them to become more conservative in their dress. And the parents are okay with it. That's ultimately, so those people who stop the youth don't have very much power.
And the ones that get taken away in the van, I heard that they just get in the cell for 24 hours. And then they're just taken back out and they just go along with it. And you'll see that they never do change their ways.
They might fix it as they go into the van, and they come out of the van, and they kind of move it back out, and just keep walking. And another thing that's really popular in Iran, it was crazy. This wasn't there 9 years ago when I went, but girls, it's fashion to have your hair either teased or these hair clips that add this much volume to your hair. So then you put these are called rusaris, put them on and it's like this. I'm not kidding. And in the back, I'm sitting back here.
I don't know if you guys see Jersey Shore, but no heat is nothing on these girls.
Yeah. These girls, it's amazing. I just kind of stood and marveled. How does that stay up? My mom says they stuck an apartment underneath there. And it's literally just big. Any other questions? And that was kind of like a status symbol. I noticed the girls with the higher heels and the tighter mantles also had bigger hair. It kind of seemed to go, it was correlational.
Could you guys talk for a couple minutes? You started by saying that you did a presentation like this for middle school kids. Could you talk a little bit about what their reaction was and what you found they were really interested in and what might be helpful for teachers to talk about in the classroom?
They were the most interested in the drugs, or what do we keep saying drugs? Sex, dating, alcohol, and religion portion of that. They would they kind of just opened up and oh, can they have boyfriends or can they have girlfriends or how can they kiss in public? Because they're middle schoolers and so they're kind of going through that too, I'm assuming. So they want to know what kids in Iran, how they interact with each other. They also, I saw a good. Oh.
I was just going to say that your presentation was the one that stood out to my middle school students when we came back, and then they actually used some of your Daily Show stuff in their presentation to their peers. So you girls made the best impression on them.
Thank you. And the very beginning where I showed the stereotypes and I said they exist, you're not weird or a bad person for having them. Many people have them.
Yes.
That kind of also opened up the conversation. And I asked the kids, I'm okay, what do you think Iran looks like? And they were really hesitant to say anything. I could tell. But so I started with the picture. I'm probably, maybe you might think it looks like this. It's okay if you do, it's not wrong. There are deserts in Iran, but it's not completely desert. So that helped open them up a little bit more and make them more open to my presentation and to asking questions. It was meant to be thought-provoking. I think it worked.
And if I could ask anything from you guys as your teachers, and I don't usually get a room of teachers to be do this when you're teaching about Iran, make them relatable, because it will really stick stronger with your students, and then they will, I don't know, that's the closest way for me to get to peace in any time in the world, I guess, is to make people relatable. The only reason people think this way is because it's so easy to dehumanize somebody across on the other side of the world. And so when I was talking to friends, I have many American friends, when they first meet me and they're where are you from? I'm I'm born in Oregon, but I'm Iranian. They have questions. And it's because they don't get direct answers from us because they don't really know if their information is reliable. And so they ask me questions. When I was 10 and I first went, yes, I was 10 years old, but I was with other middle schoolers, and they asked me if I had cars in Iran. And that's because they really don't know. They don't see that on the news. So if you can, I really like what my sister did about breaking the ice, because like she said, the students perk up, and it's the best thing just to show that they are exactly like you, they're just in a different culture. But they're still human beings, and they still have everything you do. They want boyfriend and girlfriend, they love, and everything.
They like fast cars.
They like wearing
coffee,
makeup, and everything. And I just think that's the easiest way that once you start teaching them, that they'll actually want to be interested, and it won't be they'll actually give you the time of day to hear something new rather than just keep on, they shut up to you and listen to whatever their parents have told them.
And also adding to that, what Monica said, the news, whatever news they see is about a war happening somewhere. And wars, modern day wars don't necessarily happen in a city. So even the shots they show are accurate. That's a desert in Iran, but that's not all of Iran. Or you don't see them showing, rush hour traffic in Iran. They have no concept of what their infrastructure looks like or what their cities look like.
So the news does do the war because that's what they're supposed to be covering. But when it comes to teaching inside a classroom, I think it's really great to bring in social issues, cultural issues as much.
I'll add to that I'm pretty sure all of our speakers today would be open to visiting a classroom and the Middle East Studies Center also can refer students, other Iranian BA or NA students, as well as students from other countries of the Middle East, which is a great thing to have them also.
And one more thing, sorry. We both are musicians too at the Iranian festivals tomorrow. This is a little ad. And it's from 10 to 5. And my sister plays violin. I play the Persian hammer dulcimer and Persian hand drum. And we'll be playing some Persian traditional music and more dancey music because Persians love to dance and eat. And so I've done this at multiple elementary schools and middle schools where I go and I've played, and then the kids ask me questions about my instrument, and then it's usually just starts discussion on whatever other questions they have. It's a really good, open the floodgates for more questions because they see that I'm playing this instrument and they're really interested. And then they ask, it's always really funny after I play, they'll ask about the instrument and then they'll be like, so what is it like in Iran? And that's immediately what they go to within a minute. But I love it, so we're welcome to anything like that too.
Okay, so this is the girl rapper in Iran. Let's see if I can make this out. she made it during the Green Movement, and then it was released, I think, in 2010.